Hey folks, Ken here. Just thought I'd do a very quick update. As you can see, the covers are off. Took them off yesterday and gave the pond a clean, and then I cleaned the covers down. There's a fair bit of algae and stuff on them. So I cleaned them down with the power washer, and they're in behind the garage there where I stored them for the summer months. The water's been cloudy. Um, It is clearing up now. I gave the pond a good vac yesterday, and I found there seemed to be a lot more algae on the bottom of the pond for some reason. Now it doesn't seem like blanket weed or anything like that, so I was half thinking of sticking in maybe a half strength dose of cloverleaf to be on the safe side, but it seems to be clear. And I'll talk about the UV in a minute, because I was thinking the UV might be on the blink, and I had problems with that. I'll talk about them when I go inside, but it is definitely better. It's a bit murky there now, but better than it was now after the vac yesterday. Fish, there's a bit of flashing going on, and I managed to get two of them out. I got the big gin matsuba there out, our original koi. He's a hard fish to scrape. He's very jittery, and I got a couple of scrapes off him, but it wasn't great. He's the kind of fish, if you really absolutely had to scrape him, you'd nearly need to sedate him. And then I got another fish I saw was the tancho, was flashing a bit, and he's only new. So I did a good scrape on the tancho. Now he was grand to handle, but could find nothing, absolutely nothing. So I don't know why. I think maybe they're just trying to wind me up. You can see the murkiness down there as they start to go down to the very bottom of the pond, but as I say, a lot better than it was. Also gave the edges of the pond a quick vac, or a quick blast. The power washer, for what it's worth, didn't make an awful lot of difference. I don't think it took a bit of the algae and a bit of the crustacean and the calcium off. I also split up. I got 4 new baskets and some soil, and I split my previously 2 lilies into 4. Easy enough to do. My wife did most of it, in fairness, just sort of tearing them apart at the root, fairly rough. But I've done it before, and lilies are they're fairly hardy, so they should be fine. And also stuck in a couple of fertilizer tabs in each of the baskets, so hopefully this needed a lot of cleaning out. By the way, it was very sludgy. I hadn't vacuumed it since I'd say September, October time frame before at the time I put the covers on, but I gave it a good clean out and the power wash, and it was grand. And the feckin' dog, this was coming great, not this dog, the other one. Grass was growing great, and I came out the other day and he bloody well dug it up. I don't know, I'd taken those things away and all, and it's all very dry there. I need to water it tonight. It sort of puffs up. This is a bit but anyway, there's lots of grass seed under there. I did this is better than it was here. Still a few patches on it, the same over here. I just cut the grass as well. This patch here that was gone, where is it? Around here is a lot better than it was, but still patchy in places. But if the dog didn't dig it up, would be really good. But anyway, I'll just put the dog clean again at it. So other than the fish is flashing, and I'll do another scrape if I see much more. But I even saw one of the goldfish flash. Now whether there's just something in the water that's, and even the garden furniture's out. Not using it at the minute, but we did take it out. So sorry, excuse me, I'm gonna put this in again. So into the filter house. So let me just turn off turn off the whole lot actually. Turn off the UV. So since I spoke to you the last time, I did move my UV. I think I mentioned this. So it was just sitting down in here. You'll see in my drum there's a bracket there for putting the UV in. It's too low. And in my opinion, there's part of my UV. Now certainly the wire part shouldn't be under, but I don't think this part should be underwater either, because what happened was I checked the UV. I only put it back in. It's been leaking there a little bit. I drilled a hole a tiny bit too, like that's more a scrape on it from the drill, but it's fine now. I tightened up the tank fitting. The UV, I don't think it's designed to be underwater, and of course if you look at where that bracket is, you know, okay, the wire, where the wire going is underwater, but most of the fitting is. And I had a look at it. I put the new bulb in it, and a couple of days later I checked it and took it out, and the quartz had filled up almost with water. It was leaking that badly. So I took it out and used a bit of silicone lubricant. Now the seal itself is not great in it either. There's a bit of black coming off it. You can see black marks on the quartz. And by the way, as I was doing this job, I had a 20-watt quartz. I didn't have the bulb exactly straight when I was putting it in, but a tiny bit of pressure on the quartz and I cracked it. And then to make it matter worse, to be a double idiot, I got the 80-watt one, and believe it or not, the 80-watt one managed to fit in there. I didn't think it would, but it did. And I got it in, and I did the same with that. Tiniest little bit of pressure. But what I did find out was I got my Dremel out, and I managed with a very, very fine bit was to cut the quartz. So I was able to cut the broken piece off it. Now it's not the straightest of but it's of edges, but it's beyond the seal, so it shouldn't make any difference to the water tightness of it. But I've only a 40-watt bulb, so that's what I can afford to cut the 80-watt quartz, because I don't need it that long. So that's fine. Now I checked it yesterday, there is still a little bit of moisture or condensation. This one, while it's branded DVS, it's actually Filtro. You'll see them branded, it's just a rebranded thing. And a few people have said to me that Filtro's stuff they feel is not great, whether it's their UVs or their drum filters. They're not cheap, you know. It's not as though they're cheaper than other brands. I mean, that particular one, Filtro or DVS branded, is about 220, 230 sterling, or about 250 euros, so it ain't cheap. I'm going to persevere. So my problem is I digress again. When I said my water was getting cloudy, I was wondering, although I didn't trip anything, when water got at the UV bulb, did I knacker it, basically. So I don't know. The fact that my water's clearing a little bit, but there was a lot of sediment, and you know when you get sediment on the bottom of the ponds. Now I only vacked it a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know why it got particularly bad, and the covers were on it. So I don't know, maybe it's just algae or something and the fish are storing it up. I'll see what I may need, and I'm debating now, should I go for another quartz and a bulb, which is about 120 euro, or should I just go for a whole new unit? That's about I can get from Germany for about 190 euro. I think I know the answer to that, to be honest. Because if the seal is gone on this, putting a new bulb in and a new quartz still won't solve that problem, and I don't think you should be getting moisture in them at all. Other job I did was my chlorine started to increase from the Big Blue, so it went up to about 0.45, and I think 0.2 is the tolerated amount for koi. I generally check it every couple of weeks at a minimum, so it was creeping up a bit. The last time I changed it was the middle of October, so I've got, you know, 6-ish months, a bit more out of it. That's all I generally tend to get. I'll just turn this back on. So now what I found as well was when I change it and I checked, this was last week, I changed it. It's the old carbon is in there, it's a bit of a messy job. When you change it, the first test I did, the reading was very high. It was up at 0.45 again, which was what it was before. But I find if you do a good back flush and a shake, and I have a compressor over there, and I was able to blast it with air, and I found that, as I say, last October after the change, and it went way down then after that. Whatever it is, when you first change it, maybe the water tracks through it and it's not getting the full benefit. I'll just show you, excuse the mess here, what happens behind the garage. This is where the covers are, and there's all bits of stuff and granite from the garden and slabs if you haven't used. I need to tidy it at some stage, but that's where bits of cars get cleaned and barbecues get hosed and everything else, and I don't want messing up other areas. Still have damage here that I need to get somebody to look at. That's from the dumper going in and out. It was a 1-ton dumper bringing the soil out from the pond dig, and the cover off there. Now I believe it's easy enough to fix, but you want to know what you're doing. My other problem is, I mentioned this last year, my blade that I made myself. There's a previous video on it if you want to look back. The water flow isn't even. I got away with it when there was a bit more of a water flow before I put in the non-return valve. You can't see it so much there, but it's just not flat. There's a little bit of a buckle in the it's not plastic, I can't remember what the hell it is, the stuff. So I got it when I was getting the polycarbonate sheets done. The crowd did this plastic, and I got them to cut me a piece exactly for there, and then I used these sort of trim pieces, L-shaped things, just Tech 7 them on the sides, and it worked well. But my problem is that the non-return valve to stop the top of the pond leaking down into the bottom. So the problem is, if there's a power cut, what happens is, if the non-return valve isn't there, and I'll show you in a second, but these two will equalize because it's a gravity system. And what happens is, this flows down into here, it overflows into the overflow in the skimmer, and then when the electricity comes back on, it sucks out of here to refill up here, and then the float switch in the drum will cut the pumps off. So I'll be snookered. And I was just, a couple of times it happened, and luckily I was here, but I was just thinking, so this is the feed out here that goes to the back to the waterfall, and this is the non-return valve. That was just a straight pipe, so I took it out and cut it and stuck that in. It is great, it stops that water flowing back into the bottom of the pond, but they do restrict flow. There is a thing on a spring in there that the water here pushes against to open it, and then when there's no pressure on this side, it closes up and doesn't let the water flow back. Ideal for the job, but the downside is that it does restrict the flow, and that's why I have that uneven thing. And I could turn the pump up to 22,000 watts and it's split that, but in this day and age, guys, I'm not running a waterfall at 200 watts. I'm already a bit high there. I have it up a bit higher at the minute. I kind of need the 140 watts, which is about 75%. I think, is it? Let's check if you can see that. No, it's 65%. And I have this one then, the main pump back to the pond returns. I have that at about 50%, and I have the shower pump at 40 watts. That's all it needs to pump up here. Pump up here into the shower. So I'd like to kind of keep that at around, so even though I add another pump for the waterfall in the summer, I generally drop the main pond pump down. So I'm still getting the same amount of pull through the filter. It's just across two pumps rather than one. So I try and keep it around the 200 watts ish if I But that's it, that's the update. If you have any comments on UV bulbs getting wet, you know, it is bright, it's on there now, and you can see it's nice and bright, you know, it's not like they tend to go, I find with my last amalgam, the first one I had when it failed, they just go very dim on their way out. That one is still lit very bright, it's still, so I'm just hoping I got away with it and I'll leave it as is, but if the pond doesn't clear, then it's highly likely that's the culprit, but as I say, it's looking kind of good at the minute. Anyway, that's it. Any comments on the UV or anything else, let me know. I did spill a bit of water when I took that out, there's nothing left in there. No, just a bit there. I took that out and I took it over to the garage to give it a good blast of air and that, just to, when you disconnect both ends, it's a bit damp there. That's it, as I say, I'll definitely go now, but if you have any comments or thoughts, let me know. If any of you have problems with phantom flashing fish or what could be causing it, you know, we even check the levels, the nitrite, step outside, it's washing, the nitrite levels are fine, it's not as though there's anything level wise that's causing a problem. I must maybe check ammonia, although anytime I look at ammonia it's always fine. It's always, historically it's nitrite problems that I've got in this pond. Actually I will check ammonia now that I think of it. I did check the nitrates and they were fine. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Talk to you next time. Cheers, bye.